Hello everyone, and welcome to the new episode about working with Darktable. With this episode, we will continue our small series on using color harmonies to improve the color composition of our photos. So let's get started. This will be our first example, and as always, we will start with some corrections. So lens correction, denoising, and since I'm using a new development version of the Darktable, we have already a few new things, and for me it's quite important this one in lens correction module. One of the most active developers, Hanno Schwalm, has made possible to manually correct the vignetting of the lens. Almost all my lenses have that problem. They are all in the LensFan database, but the vignette corrections are not done for those lenses. Now I have the possibility to real quick and easy correct that manually. So let's do that real quick. And you will have this option in the next stable version of the Darktable. Okay, next thing that we need to do is to add some exposure, maybe color balance, for contrasts, and also for saturation, so that we are able to see the photo or the colors of the photo. Okay, and now we can start to work with our colors. So let's switch now in the scopes menu to the vectorscope. Maybe disable this indicator for different color harmonies to be able to see the poor colors. And before we think about our colors, let's first do our white balancing with color calibration module. And that's too much, too reddish. Maybe I can use this area here to improve the white balance. And maybe, let me see, I think I could also have a bit more colder color. So that's an improvement that I like, more or less. And now, as you may see, we have some kind of cross here. So I think we can use this one, square. And of course, the biggest triangle should be on the main subject. And this is our house. I assume that is somewhere here. Now we will add some points or some areas. In this case, I will really like to add some areas instead of points with a color picker, and I will show you later why. To be able to do that, before you're clicking to activate the color picker, we need to press Control key, and now we can choose some area. And first area that I would like to choose is this one of the house. Need to add it there. Maybe also display samples so that we see where are they. This is our first sample. The next sample maybe will be good to have is the road, color of the road. Then the next one, maybe one of these green yellowish parts of the tree. Let's choose this one here. Something like that. The next one should be, or could be, the green of the grass. And maybe the green in the trees in the background. And then blue clouds and blue in the sky. Something like that. And now we have all samples that we need. And as you can see, we need some color here. We need some purple. And how can we get that purple? I think this road here which is in this area here. Let me check it again. Yeah, that is the point. If we shift that road, color of the road, in this direction, we will have a nice distinction between the road and the house. I would like to separate those colors. So let's try to do that. And that can be done also with next instance of color calibration. I will use a channel mixer for that. And we need to go to our parametric mask. You just choose the slider for hue. And now, since we have made the area, we can reuse it for parametric masking. Now, if I click on that color picker on the parametric mask and go to the patch that I want to mask, in this case, this is this one here, I need to press it with the right mouse button, and we get it here, but also as range for our parametric mask. That is quite nice. So let's see what we have chosen. And of course, the colors are quite similar to the colors of our house, so we need to use one drone mask to reduce that only for on the road. Something like that. Maybe also here. And I need to add a bit feathering and maybe a bit mask contrast, and we have masked our road. So now we need to shift it to the purple area. And how to do that? Because that is mostly red, the pixels are mostly red. Disable that mask thing. We need to go into direction to the blue, so we can use blue channel in channel mixer and input red to shift that area into the purple. Well, let's say something like that. But now it looks, harmony is correct, but doesn't look right. What also needs to be done there is we don't want too much colors on that road, so we also need to desaturate that road with all the three channels. And as you can see now, we have nice distinction between the house and the road. Similar we need to do also with the tree here. The tree is fighting for attention color-wise with our house. So I would like also to change the color of the tree. And we also have that patch. So let's use another instance of color calibration. The same procedure as before. Click on that. And the patch of the tree is, I think, this one. Yes, that is the correct one. And let's see what we have masked there. And you can see we have masked the correct area. We need to improve a little bit the feathering and maybe also the mask contrast. And now we need to shift that one. Let me see where it is in the vectorscope. If I go there to enable vectorscope again. Here we are. This one needs to go to the green. So it's easy because it's reddish, or have a lot of red pixel have a lot of red. We can use green channel and just move input red there towards green. Maybe we don't want to go too far, just to touch. And now we have also nice distinction between our house and background. So let's start just before and after. Let's start with maybe colors palettes RGB. Make a snapshot to see, so that you are able to see the difference As you can see, our house is now quite isolated nicely. Okay, what else we can do here? So let's improve local contrast a little bit. I will add diffuse and sharpen. Just a preset, maybe this one. And I think what we also can do is to darken a little bit the sky, just tiny bit. So I can use next instance of color calibration and go to the brightness tab, darken a little bit the sky, add the brightness to the green and maybe to the red. Just a bit, not too much, something like that. And I think we're done with this one. So let's see again before and after. Let's start with two possibilities. One is after lens correction, maybe here. And take snapshot and go to the last step. We can choose also color balance RGB one. And the last step. Now we can compare this original. Let me disable display thingy here. And you see, it's quite nice improvement. Okay. And again, the comparison between color balance RGB without color changes and with color changes. You see how nicely we have done our color improvement here. This is our next example, and let's start with noising, lens correction, maybe a bit more exposure. Let's say something like that. Color balance RGB. We need some contrasts. And of course, colors. Or what I mean is saturation. And I think we could also make some corrections. Yes, that's nice. Let me go a bit down with exposure and add even more contrast in the flower. Okay. And now we are ready to deal with colors. So let's go to the vector scope and see what we get here. Now let me disable this thing first. And we have here 3 colors or 3 color directions. So I think for this case, we could use something like that triad. And we need to decide which should be our main color. I will say also the red, the yellow will sample similar to the last example. Maybe something like that. But before we do that, we need to improve our white balance. Let's see what we get. And now we get it too reddish, which I don't like. I think I will go down a little bit here, something like that. And let's add some patches. So first one should be yellow. Let me enable the color picker. Let's add this one. The next one, let's go this direction. Maybe this kind of green. Then we need some bluish green or darker green. Bluish green. And we also need, I think, the sky. Yeah. And of course, purple. And we have our colors. Maybe one more in the transition from the purple to the yellow. I don't know. Let's see what kind of color. Let me enable this one. Yeah, something like that here. You see, we have something between blue and purple. So let's add that one also. Okay. Now we can start to improve our colors. So let's rotate a little bit our indicator here down. I would like to have our yellow somewhere in the middle. And now what we need to do, we need to deal with those colors in this area. So let's start with the green, with these two greens. Excuse me. And I think these two greens are here. This one, and this one. Yeah, those three. And for that, we will use the next instance of color calibration. So let's use hue slider for that. And this time I don't want to use the patch for that because we have different greens and I don't want to isolate only one of those. So let's use this color picker here just to see how wide is the area. So there is the start of that green, so we can shift our mask to that point, and I think the next is here. Yes, those two. So we need to go with the other part to that area. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. We have two different patches here. So we need to combine them to one mask. That is the point. And now we have this kind of mask. Let's go with feathering radius a bit up. And what needs to be done is we need to move those in the direction of blue. So what we can use, we can go to the blue channel, and because these are greens, we can use input green and move them in that direction. Something like that. And we're good. Now everything is bluish, but maybe what we can do also is to add the feathering radius a bit higher so that we have the transitions a little bit softer, and also go down with colorfulness. We don't want to have that much saturation in the background. So, and now just with this one move, we have now separated our our yellow in the middle from the rest. The rest doesn't fight that yellow in the middle. Now we need to improve this area here. That can be done with the next instance of color calibration, and maybe we can also choose, let me see, what are those areas? I think that is this one. No, wait a minute. I think, yes, here is the start. And here's the end. So what do we get here? Those, yes. And as last example, let's just add a ton of feathering. And what we need to do is to move this to the green, to the direction of green. And because these are mostly blue, we go to the green channel and use input blue, and we are good. And I will also, in this case, just go down with saturation of those colors. We don't need too much saturation there, because these parts of the leaves or petals and also the sky, they don't need to be saturated. Okay. And practically we are all actually done. What I could do, I could move this one, let me see, just a bit more in the middle. So let's see what we get here. We'll use now. Yeah, we can brighten it a tiny bit in both directions so that we cover most of the area, and also add a ton of feathering radius. And now we need to move it in direction of red, since that's also the blue, or in the blue area. We can use input blue just a tiny bit more. That's all. I don't want to change the color too much, because I think it fits already as it is. Yes. Okay. So let's see. Let's disable those thingies and compare that before and after. I don't know what to start, maybe with color balance RGB, snapshot, and also color calibration. There's not much difference, so let's leave it there. And go to the last step and compare those two areas. And now you may see how nicely we have reduced the amount of yellow around the flower. And now flower have much more, is much more in the foreground. What I also could do though is we can use one more instance of color calibration and regulate also that flower with saturation. So what we can do, we can go to the color furnace tab, add a ton of red, and remove the blue and green. Let's say something like that. Maybe green not that much. And it will improve our colors even better. Yes. You see that? That is nice. You can also add a bit more sharpening to the flower. Yeah. And nice thing, if you have locked up your colors of the photo, in particular color harmony, what you also can do, you can now, just by shifting the hue, you can have different versions of the same photo. So let's say I have added one more color balance RGB, and if I shift the hue in this direction, I can have some interesting version of that color, you see? And also we can go in the other direction, but you need to be careful not to go too far, because something strange. But in this case, is some kind of colder version with, let's say, some kind of greenish yellow, or we can also have the other version with more orangey part in the middle. I think this one is also quite interesting, but let's leave it in the middle. Okay, next example. As always, let's start with lens correction and denoising. And I think I need to improve exposure quite a lot here. There you go, something like that. And maybe just tiny bit correction of, yeah, vignetting. And we can go to the color balance RGB and improve the contrasts. Let me see, let's go with shadows higher. Maybe like something like that. And now I would like to show you one nice trick to add a bit more texture in the snow. These typical snow scene have always problems that we don't have that nice texture. That can be done with two instances of tone equalizer. So with the first instance, we will just reduce the brightness of the highlights a tiny bit with enabled the preservation of details. Let me also add some refinement so that we don't have any halos around, something like that. And now we can use the next instance of tone equalizer, but this time without preservation of details. Practically a simple tone curve. Let me adjust also the mask. And now we can add back our highlights. Let's see something like that. And we have automatically a lot of texture in the snow. Let me improve that color balance, the contrast even more now. And I will show you before and after. And now, this was the point before we have used tone equalizer. When you can use a snapshot and go to the last step, and you can now see the difference. See? Maybe let's go here. How many texture we have now? That's super cool trick to get a bit more texture in the highlights if you need it. Okay. No, let me add a tiny bit more brightness. Yeah, okay. So we're done with basic corrections, and let's see what we can do with the colors now. Okay, now we need to white balance our photo, so let's see what we get with color calibration module. Okay, we can leave it there. And what I will also like to do is to enhance the saturation of the photo. And this time we'll go opposite as we always go. This time I will add saturation in highlights and midtones the most, and the less on the rest, because we would like to see the colors much better, and because the snow are reflecting the colors from the sky and from the sun, we need to enhance that. Okay, now we have something like that, and we can go to vector scope now. And as you may see, let me disable this thing. We have a big area with warmer colors and quite small area with colder colors. So we need something like, where it is, this one. And the main color will be, of course, therefore, our warm part. So let's adjust our analogous complementary color harmony to our photo, and we can now start to add some samples with picker. Okay, let's start with this one here and go around. I don't know, I think this is quite similar. Maybe this here, it's also warmer color. And also have a little bit of purple. Where do we have that? I suppose there is somewhere here in that, yeah. So let's add this one also. Then we have some blue. I don't know, maybe also one here, a little bit brighter blue. And some greens. Okay, let's find some green here. Do we have any green here? No. I think the most of the greens are in this area here. So they are not too high. We don't have that much green. Okay, that's enough, one sample for greens. And now we have all samples that we need, and we need to see how to improve the colors according to analog complementary. What we need to do, we need to shift maybe those two samples both in direction of the yellow red. So we can use the next instance of color calibration and try to find that purple I think that was this one. Let me enable also. Yeah, there's something somewhere here. Okay, as you can see, it's not that much. I think we can use a little bit red. So let's go this way. Just for the case. We don't have too much red. We have only orange and yellow. So I don't think that we will mask that much. And what I don't want to change, I don't want to influence this area here. I just want to influence this part with the bush, because that is the area where we found purple. Let's prove it again, just for the case. And we can enable color picker and see. So as you can see here, we have just a small amount. We don't have that much purple in this area, so we don't want to influence that much. So we will reduce our, I think we need to disable. We will reduce the influence only here in this area. Something like that. And that needs to be shifted towards yellow. So we will use, now we can use blue and shift a little bit red to the yellow. And we're done. I don't think we need to do much more. So let's see. Yeah. That is just a tiny bit. That's not so prominent, that the color here, because it's only spread overall and does not influence overall look of our photo. So don't be too picky if you see something like that. And we could also shift the green, but I would like to try something else, because we can now slowly start to go in direction of color grading. I would like to improve the colors of this photo by using next instance of color balance RGB module and 4-way tab. And I think we can improve that green just by adding the whole scene a tiny bit of reddish, or whatever here color is, let's say some kind of orangey, into the global offset. As you can see, we have shifted that green now into direction of our analog colors here. We can also do that, I think, in the shadows. So we can add some red in the shadows also, just a bit. We don't want to influence it that much. And just with that touch, we have improved that upper part of the photo, of the colors, quite a lot. What else we can do, we can now enhance the contrast between those two areas by, let me use next instance of color calibration, by darkening the blue and adding quite a lot of brightness in the yellow. Well, I mean red, excuse me. Let's do that this way. I could even go darker with the blue. Well, I'll see. You can go even, let's say 2. That will be too much, but we can go back. Yeah, that is what I like. I like to have these areas in the foreground. So that is the one way how we can get that done. So, and I think we're good. It's incredible how much colors you can get only from the snow if you enhanced the reflection of the of the colors. And now we have practically two colors, because in the shadow area we have the blue sky, reflection of the blue sky, and in this area here you can see we have some light from this direction, and I think that's not direct sunlight, but that is some reflection of the walls from the house. If we will have direct sunlight, then we will have much higher shadows. But that wall reflects direct sunlight directly into these areas. So let's see before and after. I don't know what to start, color balance maybe, or color calibration. Yeah, here we can start there. As you can see, we don't have too much colors, but we have enhanced it quite a lot now. And then when we go to the last step, you see how much improvement we have here. That's quite nice. You have a lot of difference and a lot of local contrast in the photo. Let's try that also with somewhere else. Maybe after lens correction you will be able to see it even better. And now we have practically that kind of raw file look and the result. What I also can do, what I forgot, we can enhance the contrast even more, local contrast, just by adding some clarity, or I called it clarity, some local contrast from diffuse and sharpen. And now, crazy. Okay. And as you can see, we have started with this one. We are going in direction of color grading. Let me just try. What will happen if we go? No. We don't have better colors. Okay. Let's go to the last one. This will be our last example, and we need to do some improvements before we are starting with dealing with the colors. And lens correction. Lens correction is lenses are not recognized. I think that's DNG file. Yes, it is from the signature edits, but it's not my photo. But okay, we don't need it. I've just used denoising if needed. And now we can go directly to color calibration and remove that color cast and see what we have. It's too bluish, so let's go down a little bit with chroma. And now we can go to the vectorscope and see what we get. Let's disable analog complementary to see what kind of colors we have. And as you may see, we have here something like that. And I think here is the skin part somewhere. Here is the background and also sky, and I assume the skirt of the woman. Okay, so I think we can use triad for that. So let's adjust the indicator. Maybe something like that, or even a bit higher. Okay, but to be able to see what we should do, we could now add some control points. That could be first one. Then we have some area here in her skin, which is a bit more purple or pinkish. And then we can add one sample from her hair. Then we can use those sunlighting areas on the grass and darker areas from the grass. What else? This part for the clothes of the woman, and maybe one more for the sky. You know, we have enough samples. Okay, we need to first, what we need to do is to correct those two colors in the skin. They're too separate from each other. So we can use now next instance of color calibration and try to adjust that. I think I would like to reduce that pinkish part. I need first to enable parametric mask, hue slider. Let's see what we have. That pinkish part here. So let's reduce our mask to that area. Yeah, something like that. And we can now try to correct that with our channel mixer. So we need to go to the red. Maybe we add a bit red and then move it inside. Doesn't need to go too far. Maybe not that much. Just a tiny bit. And now we have correct color of the skin. And I forgot to add a bit more contrast. So let's do that real quick. And also some saturation so that we recognize the colors a bit better. Let's remove the saturation from the highlights. Okay, now we have this case. What we also need to do, need to shift those 3 points. So let's start, I think, with her hair. Yes. Let's bring it down into the triangle here. So again, the same game. Okay, we now have this one. Need to be careful not to only to influence that area. Yeah. So I think I will reduce the mask only to her skin and hair. It's not that much important to have anything else. And now we can use maybe blue. Yeah, something like maybe also add some red. Just a bit. And desaturate. And that we don't want to have that high saturation in that area. Okay, let's move now the yellow to the green and blue to the purple. I think that is this one. Let me see. Yeah, this one needs to be a more greenish. So let's mask that one. see what we get. Yeah, more or less. Add some feathering and move it to the green. And it looks a bit better. And also that blue, I think that's part of the clothes of the woman. Yeah, that's this one. So next instance, color picker on hue slider, and we need to isolate that one. So let me see, maybe a bit more. And feathering. And now we can move it into the direction of blue. Let me see, we need to be careful not to go too far. But we can get this. Okay, now we have everything inside. And also, I think it's a good idea to desaturate this area also. But everything is a little bit too reddish. Now we have locked our colors in that particular color harmony, and we can use one more color instance, one instance of color balance RGB, excuse me, and now we can shift that in this direction a little bit, the whole thing. But what I don't like is the purplish in the cloth of the woman. Let me see. Maybe we don't go too far there. Something like that, I would say. Let me see. Well, I think, yeah, that's much better. What we also need to do is to deal with that area here. I'm not satisfied with that sunlight there. So we can use diffuse and sharpen, and maybe preset, bloom preset. Add some iterations, something like that. And of course, we will only use this part here. For that, as a first thing. And the second thing, we will use next instance of color balance RGB and use that area as raster mask from diffuse and sharpen module. And now colorize it a bit and give it some color that fits the scene. We can remove the overall color of that area and add this one. And maybe also adjust a bit more brightness. So I think color-wise we are good, so we can see before and after. I don't know, we can start with this. Or, yes, we can start with this and see the change. And as you can see now, we have nice separation between her, or woman, and the background. And we have corrected the colors. But what I would also like to do, a bit smooth the background. That can be done with contrast equalizer. And I don't want to smooth everything, but just the background, we can use details threshold mask for that. I think that would be a good idea to go something like that. Add a bit of feathering. So we want to influence only this area. And now we can go down with Luma values. Let me see. Just to soften the background a tiny bit. Maybe not too much with the fine part. So let me see. Yeah, that calms down a little bit the rough part of the local contrast. And now we will add a fine part of local contrast with diffuse and sharpen one more instance above contrast equalizer with clarity. Clarity, or maybe let me try another one. Bit less, yes, less contrasty. Something like that. So we are practically now in the area of color grading now. So let's see again before and after. Enable. Yeah, that's quite big difference. We can also try to see where do we have the start. Let's also add a snapshot and go to the last step and compare that. That's a quite big difference. Let's enable those disable, excuse me, those things that are not on the way. Yeah, it looks quite nice now. But I would like to desaturate a bit more the highlights to give it a last touch. We don't need too much colors. Maybe even a bit more midtones. Let me see. Yeah, something like that. I like that bit more pastel-y look. Okay. So in this episode we have chosen different color harmonies for improvement of our photos. In the first one we have used square color harmony to be able to separate the road and the tree, which are colliding with our main motif, our house here. And in the second example, we have used analog complementary colors to get those quite colorless scene a bit more punch, color-wise, but also by using that harmony, we are able to separate the foreground, those trees in the foreground and also deck chairs, from the rest, so that we have that bluish background and warmer main subjects. And also we have able to enhance a little bit the texture of the snow. In the third example, we have used triad color harmony because we have three main colors, purple and yellow or orangey part of the flower versus that colder bluish greenish background. So we have unified the background, and through that unification we are able to enhance the colors of the flower even better. And similar to that one, in the last example, we have also used the triad color harmony to separate the skin of the woman and her color of the hair from the cloth and also from the background. So you see that is quite to be able to judge what needs to be done. Color harmony can be quite helpful. So this will be end of this episode, and in the next one we will continue our journey to the usage of color harmonies, and I think we will concentrate our work a bit more on color grading. So stay tuned and bye bye.